Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Getting Visible with Heike. I am here today with Deb Allenberg. I'm going to give her a chance a little bit down the road to introduce herself, but we're excited to talk about LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn is another social media platform. It can be frustrating to figure out how to use all of those different platforms for promoting our different businesses. So last year I was in that situation where it's like, oh, frustrated. I wanted to be on LinkedIn because I know that's where my audience is, but I didn't know how to use it. So thank God I found Deb, who took me through a program, and we're going to touch on some of the things that I learned in her course, and I want you to take home some of those tidbits as well. We're going to quickly talk about opportunities for conversation with your ideal client, how to maximize your time and energy on LinkedIn, what to post to make it valuable and actually relevant to your audience, and then the dreaded, and I know all of you hate this one, when people connect with you and it's all about getting sold to. So Deb, thank you so much for being on. Welcome, and please give us just a little bit of introduction of who are you and why are you here with me today?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Heike, for inviting me. I'm Deb Ellenberg. I work with, I'm a Sandler trainer. I work with Sandler Training with Greg Orth in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And we essentially work with a lot of business owners, salespeople, entrepreneurs that are focused on business growth. I know some of the things that I hear people say is that they just struggle to find or confirm some of those opportunities. They, say, oh, I'm closing business, but my margin is getting squeezed, and they get ghosted, or, they're chasing after clients. So we, in essence, help them by focusing on a process for prospecting and a process for selling. And LinkedIn is one of those great platforms and great tools that we can use that helps people with business growth, with prospecting, with researching clients. So that's why I started the LinkedIn Scaling Project. So thank you for having me today.
Yeah, you are so welcome. I mean, one of the reasons, again, like when I came on with you, what is it, a year and a half ago now? I mean, I was so small. I had less than 500 people that I was connected with. I had, again, like my following was probably somewhere in the same numbers. And I have by more doubled this by now. And that's just within a year and a half of like being active on LinkedIn. So I'm pretty excited about the growth that has happened. But it was, again, by becoming a little bit more intentional. Mm-hmm. And that's maybe where I want to come in. Like, is this LinkedIn? Do you see this as something that is good for every kind of business? Like, who do you invite in? Like, who do you think is a good candidate to be on LinkedIn? Let's start with that before we actually hop into the other 4 questions.
Yeah. So I can say that with all of our clients, when I'm talking to prospects and clients, we always say, if you're not on LinkedIn, you're missing out. So It's one of those things that where you might not be active on LinkedIn, at the very least, you want to have a profile, because the people that you're doing business with, they're going to be researching you. So it is a no-brainer, free platform that you can really put information out there about the problems that you solve and why people might want to explore having a conversation with you to see if you can help them. Yeah. So, yes, everyone should have a LinkedIn profile if they're trying to do business with others.
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting because I've been taking time just going over and just reading like through different people's profiles, and I'm, as a headshot brand and personal branding photographer, it's like, okay, I'm a photographer. Do I just put photographer? Do I put headshot photographer? And I just changed mine to saying I help people feeling seen, because that to me is the power of what I bring to the table. And then yes, you still have the photographer and headshots and all this as the second part of of my tagline in a way. But it's the differentiating myself again of like, why do people come to me? Because they don't feel seen. And it's the power of that I bring to the table as a photographer to do just that. So let's bring that actually right next into this next question of how do we create opportunities for conversation on LinkedIn? Because I think this is where really the power is happening on LinkedIn, is through those conversations. What kind of tips do you have for us?
Yeah. So, well, first and foremost, and I'd say just I'll give you a shout out. You want to start with having your profile complete, and having a profile complete includes having a great picture. because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so what you offer as a service to get that great headshot, that great picture, it makes a big difference. So, in answer to that question, I have a few low hanging fruit ways to how do you create conversations with people on LinkedIn. First, get your profile up to date, get it completed. And then there are a couple things. When low hanging fruit, when people check out your profile, you get the notification. It's a great way just to, as an easy follow up. Hey, I saw that you were on my profile. Love to learn a little bit more about you. So again, following up with somebody that checks out your profile. Also, LinkedIn has groups that you can be a part of that may be groups that are people that you're trying to attract, or people that you're trying to that might be industry alliances, or maybe do the same thing and you want to learn what they do.
Yeah.
You could just do a search in the search bar, but joining those groups and participating in some of that conversation, again, it's a low hanging fruit, great way to create some conversations with people you want to connect with. Also,
and let me just intersect right there, because I think the groups is sometimes it's things that you want to learn yourself. So it's not just always thinking about, okay, who do I want to sell to?
right.
It is also about, like, okay, where am I learning more? And where can I then, how can I then also then utilize that kind of information of bringing this out there? And I just want to do a little bit, like, we do have some live viewers, so I'm really grateful you guys are here. Christina Martin just said hello to both of us here, so thanks for being on board. If you guys have questions, please do put them. I can only see the LinkedIn questions. I know we're live on YouTube and also Facebook, but if you have questions here on LinkedIn, please put them in and we will try and comment or answer questions as we can. All right. Yeah. So conversations, those are the ones you do want to have, things where you're learning for yourself, but then you also want to be in groups again, where you might find the audience that you're looking for.
I can say also, just a real quick a benefit of joining the group, it is going to increase the number of second degree connections you have versus third degree connections. So it gives you another level of commonality. So again, you can create some conversations. Lastly on that one, I'd say if you're posting, when people comment or react on your post, it's a great way to follow up with them. Or if there's somebody that you're trying to connect with, when they're making some post, to create some conversation by commenting on the things that they're writing or that their business is doing, is a great way, again, low hanging fruits, to strike up conversations with others. It's not just sending a connection request and saying, hey, let's connect. But I know we'll get to that.
We will, and I almost want to jump to that, but let's keep that one for last, because that's the one that we'll all want to know an answer to on how to deal with that. So again, social media platforms, we might be on more than just LinkedIn. And again, like, thanks for everybody listening in. We have quite a few people commenting that they're here. Which shows me right there that you are on LinkedIn. So how much time do we want to invest in this? Is 5 minutes a day enough? Do I need to spend 2 hours a day on LinkedIn? Like, what seems to be a happy medium from posting time to actually interacting time? Let's break this actually down and not just give a big number, but I want to have that broken down into where do we best spend our time on LinkedIn.
So I will say, you started it with making that comment, you've got to be intentional.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's, in answer to that question, that there's one right answer for everybody. It's just looking at what are the things that you want to do and what makes sense for you with your timing and your schedule. It could be, again, just being intentional, saying, I'm going to spend 15 minutes a day and researching the people that I want to connect with. And if they're posting, I want to comment on 5 different, possible prospects that I'm trying to reach. It could be also something like, I'm going to time block 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week. Again, it really comes back to what are the results you're trying to get to, and how are you using LinkedIn? I'd say there's lots of different ways that you can use LinkedIn. On a very easy way, using the search bar to run and generate a lead list. That's such an easy way. And then you can, again, start following the people that you want to try to connect with.
Yeah.
and engage in conversation. You can use it for mutual connections. Can you help me? I know you and I are connected. Maybe there's somebody that you and I are connected with. I don't know them well. You might know them well. I can ask you, can you help me with an introduction?
Yeah.
So it's a great way to use LinkedIn. Again, from a timing perspective, you've got to figure out what makes sense for you.
Yeah.
But then be intentional. I love the word that you used. Does
Yeah.
that answer your question?
It does. And one of the things that when I realized, like, being intentional, and like every time I go to a networking meeting, I look at the person across from me. I spend time and I'm interacting. I'm asking questions. I might answer something when they have questions. So it's really taking the opportunity when you're online is to do exactly the same thing. There's one person across from you who is interested in getting to know you, and you're interested in getting to know them. So just pretend their life.
Yeah. I always say, using LinkedIn or going to a networking event, it's identically different. So, you're both learning about other people. You're striking up conversations with strangers or even people that you know, but maybe don't know that well. So it's identically different. And it just comes back to, how much time do you want to spend? What's the results you're looking for?
And that's I really like what Christina mentioned here. It's like, I have found that people are much more open to connecting on LinkedIn. And I think it's because we're all in the same boat in a way, because we all want to make those connections. We're, again, intentional about networking, in growing our audiences and growing our network. And so there is a reciprocity in being out there. And I probably misused that word, or
you did it right.
Language, those are hard ones.
Well, and I'll just do a sidebar ad. When you are at a networking event, just kind of pulling the two together, the face-to-face and the LinkedIn. If you've ever used the QR code, you can at the top, and I can share later on how to do that. But if you pull up your LinkedIn account on your phone, you can connect with somebody just by sharing your QR code with your LinkedIn profile, and connect immediately right then and there.
Because I don't do that, but then I keep forgetting that I can. And then I go back to when every time I get a business card, so I go online and I do find them on LinkedIn, and then figure out, are they active? Again, if you're not active, if you want to connect with someone, there needs to be a little bit of activity on someone's account, because if there's nothing is happening, then it's, that it's a dead end conversation, right?
Yeah.
But the question, there's another question that came up, which I think is a good part of, like, where do we put our energy? So what, is there a better time than others to be on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So again, it depends on what you're looking for to do. If you're looking to post, there's a lot of information that say, oh, you could do this, you can do that. These are the times. The hot times for individual posts, are really the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings, maybe between 8 or 9 and 1. Again, it's a little bit all over the place. I can tell you Saturdays are not good days to post. Although, I say that, but I've had some success in posting Saturdays. So it's knowing who your audience is and when they might be on LinkedIn. So
yeah, and then with that, it's again, like with any other plays, you just have to play around with a little bit, try different times. But then also, are you active at the same time? Do you post and then walk away and hope that all of a sudden your post will go viral, which is probably not going to happen if you're not active yourself? But I think the magic on LinkedIn is really, it's building the connections and commenting and answering questions. So every time you get a comment, you want to be there and you want to, again, answer back, have a comment, not just say, oh, thanks, but is there some other value you can add to your comment that might, again, increase the engagement that is happening? Is there an invitation maybe for them to sign up to your mailing list? Or is there a possibility that they're curious to learn more about certain services and you can actually send them over to a link on your website? What are little ways that you can, again, like, expand on that one little comment and turn it into a more fruitful conversation?
Yeah, I think it's the difference, and they're both good, but it's the difference between being active and being engaging. So being engaging kind of does all of those things that you just mentioned. How do you invite somebody in? How do you ask questions to learn about them? Because you're not selling, you're helping and understanding.
Exactly, because usually when someone comments, they are they would like to know more.
Yeah.
People are not just friendly. I mean, they are. There's usually a reason. I mean, again, we're on LinkedIn because we do want to have that conversation. We do want to grow and learn. So if we can again add value to our comments, to add more to the conversation, then it's not just helpful for the one person, but what I've learned with my own posts and people comment, I can tell that people are reading through other people's comments because they do want to learn more. They're curious about what else you have to say and what people are commenting. And again, my responses to that. And so I've realized that there's conversation to be had out of those extra pieces. So be intentional. Think through that people do read everybody else's comments.
Yes.
So I'm going to hop into the next question because I want to keep us on time. I talk about keeping this to 27 minutes, and I value your time, so we want to do that and get to all of the questions here. The next one is, so we did talk about that a little bit already, like post and valuable, but let's talk a little bit more again. What kind of posts, what kind of content are we creating here? We mentioned a little bit like adding. Okay, I'll let you lead with that, and then I might have some thoughts I want to add into this. So let's
perfect. Well, again, I always lead with the idea of it's not about us, it's about them. So when you're thinking about the post that you're doing, it's what content could you share that would be valuable to the people who might be viewing your post? You know, what tidbits or tips can you give? I always call them gold nuggets that would be helpful for the reader because again, they might be curious. People don't care about us. They care about the problems that they have and how to fix them. So if our services or products can help them with fixing those problems, great. But so it's a matter of sharing content that really resonates with the reader. Again, it's not about us, it's about them. I always say when you're putting out tips, it might be 3 things to avoid or, 7 tips that, will help you grow your visibility. Defining industry terms is a good one. Maybe if you see a great post, maybe it's not your own, or maybe it's something the company does or you've done in the past. If you're going to repost something, not just repost it, but add a comment why you think that this would be, why you're reposting it, why it's helpful, why you found value in it, and why you think it might be valuable for others. I always say, you can use it as an opportunity to challenge someone. Hey, I talk about journaling all the time. Who's in it? Have you tried a 7-day journal habit? And see how does that feel? Who's in? So lots of things that you can do to engage your audience, but are also helpful from their perspective. So go ahead. You had a question on that and more comments?
I did. And again, coming from the photographer here is it to me, it's like marketing, when we're branding ourselves, when we're creating content. To me, an image again speaks so much, but your content needs to really connect with the image. We can't just, again, throwing out graphics just for the sake of having a graphic on there, or saying like, oh yeah, images give us a little bit more visibility, but they can also be detrimental to our content, to our posts, when they don't fit. So if the messaging is completely opposite or just doesn't make sense together, then you're confusing people. So having images that are relevant, that are created with your messaging in mind. So again, as a personal branding photographer, I'm always making sure that you're part of the imagery as well. And I love when I see actually my clients using their images to, again, even if it's just a little image of them, a cutout maybe on a post or a graphic they created, or a little bit blurred in the background, where they're, again, like branding themselves on a continued basis, while then adding actual benefits and maybe having some notes on the graphic to really bring home the content, the message that they really want to have out there. So I feel like being incredibly intentional with all of the pieces.
It's that attention to detail, right?
Attention to detail and figuring out like what is the messaging in the image. Does it go with the content I'm throwing out there?
Yeah. The
So,
only other thing that I'd add too is just keep in mind that LinkedIn and Facebook are two different platforms. LinkedIn is your professional platform.
yeah,
So I think that there are images and things that we can do, again, that attention to detail that really matters. Again, thinking about the audience, but it is not Facebook.
yeah,
So
it is.
always having those selfies like, hey,
That is, yeah.
and
And
you got to think about that. Does that really make sense?
yeah, and those are the images I do not talk about. I mean, selfies again have their place, but again, there might be your Instagram or your Facebook place, TikTok, all of those places, but they're not. They don't belong on LinkedIn. I mean, on occasion you have one that again might help tell a story, and if that is beneficial to your audience, then absolutely. But again, think through having an image library that will add to your professional content to answering the questions your audience has, to help also make sure people understand that you're the expert in the field. If you're like Heather creates teas, like she does tea blending and all of that. So anything that would help understand what goes into the process, what might be a good fit for people to understand, like how do you dry tea, like how do you make tea, how do you, but also then bring yourself into, are you actually enjoying tea yourself, right? Don't just show the process, but you also want people always want there's some kind of emotion and feeling connected with what the outcome needs to be. And that can be, and that's where the solving the problems comes in, is that. And one of the problems is like, I want to have time at the end of the day, for example. And again, like Heather, I'm pulling you out here because you're the last person who commented, but it's I want you maybe sitting back with a cup of steaming tea on your porch, like as the nights are maybe cooling down now. And so how do we invite people into that kind of emotion, that kind of feeling, that is saying, oh, what kind of teas do you have? Right? How can I have that same feeling? So I want to have more of that happening for all of us. And our different industries require different kind of imagery, different kind of storytelling. So, and that's where, again, like what Deb does is totally different than what I do and what someone else here does. So what is Heather saying? Yep, drinking chai right now. So she's doing it. Good for you, Heather. So yeah, so let's come to our last question then, the dreaded one that I think all of us have experienced, and that is when someone wants to connect with you and all they want to do is sell to you. How do we, first of all, connect in a healthy way, in a way that does not annoy people, and then also, what do we do? What is the best approach for someone who comes in and just really in a way spams their inbox?
Yeah. No, great question. I love connection requests. So when I first got on LinkedIn, that was one of the things. I think I was one of those people that were like, hey, let's connect. And hey, let me tell you all about, at the time I worked for another company. Let me tell you all about the things that we do and blah, blah, blah. It's not why people connect. So there is a great opportunity when you're sending out connection requests that, again, start with, hey, love to learn a little bit about you, and your business, the industry. Would you have 10 minutes so I could, get to know? And if it makes sense for us to connect on here on LinkedIn, that would be awesome. Or, I see we've got a bunch of mutual connections. Again, maybe instead of sending a connection request, I would ask somebody that is a mutual connection to say, can you help us with an introduction?
Yeah.
And that's an easy way to connect. Now, when you're getting connection requests, and to your question, how do we respond to that? So two things. I have LinkedIn Navigator. That is a premium account. So with a premium account, what you can do is message somebody back. And so typically with that, I will message someone, hey, thanks so much for the connection request. I've gotten really intentional getting to know everybody I'm connected with. Would you be open to a 10-minute get to know chat? I'm thinking you have questions for me. I'm just going to ask questions to you. Let me know when you're available. And that's easy for me to send. Now, if you don't have a premium account, then what do? Sometimes you've got two options. You can either accept that connection request and then immediately direct message them saying, again, just that. I've gotten really intentional in getting to know everybody. Would you have 10 minutes, blah, 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 blah. And they'll either respond yes or no, or they might respond with, again, that initial, come back, here's a pitch, and then I would respond right away to say, I love to get to know you. Again, 10 minutes, be really intentional with the 10 minutes. If they continue with the pitch, then I might discontinue. But things I will say, people that I would have initially maybe not connected with, and when I have done that, has turned into some really beautiful conversations and even opportunities for doing business together, being on a podcast as a guest. I mean, it's amazing, but it's the approach. Let me learn more about you.
And the other person is, again, like on that, reacts with the same kind of, let's get to know each other instead of, again, just pitching, then there's opportunity.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, one of the things, I do not have a premium account. So one of the things that I do then is when I reach out and connect, I can only do this from my computer, though. It does not seem to work on my phone. It's like adding a note. And that is either saying, like, where did we meet? Why am I connecting? Again, saying, yes, I found you. Thank you for liking or commenting here. I really appreciate what you just shared. I want to make sure that people, and you do need to do this fairly quickly. I've just did this, unfortunately, this week where I went back to a post where I had forgotten to do this. And so that was like 2 weeks ago. And then the person like, oh, what did I even comment on? So because we do this in the moment and then we kind of forget what we did. And so you do want to make sure that you're connecting pretty much right after. If you want to connect, do this when everything is fresh for both of you. So that you have a relevant comment and then they can still remember what happened. And that's for me, it's part of like connecting when I get like business cards, when it's like after networking, but it's also after I find someone on LinkedIn. And there's one other thing I look for, and I'm not sure if you've ever noticed when you do have people commenting, like probably again, like after our live feed today, I'll go through and see who was interacting with us. And if they have a second, like a 2ND behind their name, it means they are a second connection to me. So first connections are people I'm already connected with, because that's where we're already right here. But second connections are the people I would at least reach out to. I don't go into third connections because that's too many people removed at this point for just doing this. But like a second connection to me is like, hey, we already know someone. They can see in their comments, oh, yeah, she knows this and this and this person.
Or you're in a group together. Yeah.
Exactly. So we already have that, in a way, that introduction of like, oh, she's an okay person.
Right.
She knows that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I invite all of you, if we're not all connected, let's get connected, and learn a little bit more about each other. Yeah.
And it was one of those stupid things when I started on LinkedIn. I just assumed that this first or second meant like, oh, they had so many different profiles. Second, third profile. Now I understand what it's all about. All right, we are at 28 minutes in, and people, I promised you that we would do 27. So let's wrap this up. Deb, you gave us so much wonderful information, and I know you have. One of the reasons I did wanted you to be on live with me, because again, I love the content I learned from you, and you are offering this program again through Sandler. So give us just a little quick invitation here. What is coming up? How can we get on board with learning more about using LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, I'm doing a program called LinkedIn Scaling Project. It's a 10-week program where we've got a couple trainings that go with it, so you know what you're doing and how you're doing it, maybe a little bit more efficiently and effectively. But it's really the interaction activity. So it's practicing. There's a group. We support each other. If there's interest in involvement, you don't have to be here in Central PA. Reach out to me. It's called the LinkedIn Scaling Project, and I can send you the link. I will also add, just with a quote that just resonates with me. Adam Braun said, for any movement to gain momentum, one must start with a small action. LinkedIn is not something that happens overnight. I hear that oftentimes. I know you say that, as we've talked, Heike, you just have to be intentional. It's coming back to that word. And so if you want some help trying to be intentional and getting in the habit, look me up with the LinkedIn Scaling Project.
Wonderful. And we will make sure that we have the link in the comment after the video goes live then, after we're done here. And again, like, thank you everyone for chiming in, for participating in our conversation here. I so appreciate you doing this, because it also means that you are ready to get visible. And if we're becoming visible, other people can find us. And I think that is you becoming intentional, and intentionality means that your audience has a chance to get to know you, and that is where the magic happens. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Again, thank you so much, Deb, for being here with me, and I hope we will connect on LinkedIn. So keep asking your questions. We'll see you later. Bye.
Thank you.